Hey everyone, Justin from the Rap Institute.
And Rainer from the Rap Institute.
And this is TWI Pro Talk. These are one of my favorite series on the Rap Institute, Rainer, because we get to go super deep, kind of share our knowledge both in real world and also as teachers with the people. So I think it really helps them as a business and also as an installer.
Yeah, really helps, and it gets in the flow.
Absolutely.
So we just talk while we're doing it. So it's a real talk. It's not just anything. So we talk about the real life and the real installs and really transform all the informations to you.
Yep. And today's topic is going to be frosted window installs outside. A lot of things to consider. So what we're going to touch on, Rainer, is we're going to talk about scheduling, production, tools you'll need for installs, install tips and tricks, whether wet or dry is better, and also finishing tips. So with that, why don't we begin with, first and foremost, when you get a job like this, you're talking to the customer, you need to schedule it. Oftentimes when you're doing jobs outside, what do you have to consider is weather, for one.
Weather.
How do you, you have your own company and stuff like that. You've done a lot of frosted jobs. I've done a lot of jobs outside when I used to work in New York City. What do you think about when you schedule?
Special is for me like, okay, if it's summer, if it's winter, all these things, can
Absolutely.
I do it from the outside or not? Then if it's sunny, if it's raining, I need to maybe schedule the things that right now the sun comes closer, so you see it in my eyes.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to schedule it that I start at 5 o'clock in the morning, work till 9 o'clock, and then start it again at 4 o'clock and work to 7 o'clock.
Yep.
So split the time that you don't directly in the sun.
Yeah, because doing frosted window installs in the sun is a no-go.
Nope.
So something to consider. So also have to think about, yes, you want to think about the sun and when it's going to hit, but then you also have to talk to the customer. For example, here, this is a building that's next to the Rap Institute, and we just did a product video where we removed their original graphics. Now we're going to put them back on. So this is obviously a live business. They're in business hours. So not only do you have to think about the sun, you have to think about, hey, is it cool that we work on the front door? Some customers might say no. So you have to do before hours or after hours. So that's definitely, if it's retail, something to think about for sure. And then in terms of schedule, you have to also think about, do you have to have ladders, all that kind of stuff? How long is it going to take to set up? In this case, very easy and straightforward.
Yeah, so we are close. We don't need to drive. Next thing, if we have the things in the car,
Yes.
we'll talk soon about the material, what we use. So if also the car is in the sun, if I have a place to store my graphics,
Absolutely.
yeah, they don't need to stay in the sun in the car, super bad. So
Yes.
if I have a place inside where it's cold and can lay flat, so perfect.
Yep. That's something you should consider too with frosted film installs. You obviously have the pre-mask going on. You also don't want that adhesive super aggressive. It really depends on the type of film. So with that, Rainer, I guess why don't we talk about material, because I think it's extremely important. So, and you have to think about a lot of levels right now. Again, a lot of people think, frosted film installs, super easy. But because it's outside, what do you have to consider?
Yeah, if you have a cast material, if you have a calanic material, if you have a water-based glue,
Yep.
or solvent-based glue, if you work with material with air channels in or not,
Yep.
if you need to do then a wet installation, or if you can do it dry.
Yep. Yep.
So a lot of steps where you think, okay, 1, 2, 3, which way you go on the end.
Absolutely. So, so that given the case, is you have to think about direct sun. So this particular window is going to get sun for maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. And let's say the customer wants it on for 4 to 5 years. Rainer, what would you choose, cast or calendar based?
Definitely go to a cast film.
And why is that?
Because it will shrink with the time. So when you get a lot of sun on the material, so all the small things, particles go out of the material and the material shrinks a little bit, so it breaks. It's not really good.
So cast film generally has a longer warranty, performs better in the sun, direct sun, so that's something to consider. Then we also have to think about water-based versus solvent-based. I know what I think, but what are your thoughts on it?
I always want to go to the solvent-based film,
Sure.
but some films, especially in this style of film, they have water-based glue.
Yep.
Water-based glue is not bad,
Okay.
but you need to think about, okay, can I install it then wet?
Yes.
Yeah, it stays good even outside a water-based
Sure,
glue.
that's good.
But it could be really heavy to take off after a while. The most of the films, they have air release channels are water-based. So
Okay.
never use or try not to use water by installing this material with the air channels.
Yep.
Okay, because then they have white spots inside the film.
Which is not good. So again, if water-based adhesive is in some ways better for the environment, and it's definitely gotten better over the years. So the benefit is obviously it's good for the environment, but the negative is when you do have that adhesive left over, it's really tough to come off. Solvent is better for sure, but you also have to think about that based on the size. And we can talk about wet versus dry right now, might as well. So oftentimes, how often do you like to do wet frosted installs versus dry? What is your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I would do 80-90% dry.
Okay, why is that?
For this, because you don't have any water around. Most of the frosted insulation, even in office buildings,
Right.
okay, you need to put towels on the floor or clean it, everything. So if you do it dry, so you clean it up front, you wrap it,
Right.
you stick it on, you release the liner, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're really fast with it,
Sure.
and also you don't need to clean the system or the whole thing after.
Right.
So it's finished as it is. If you do a wet installation, it looks nice.
Yes.
So you can go then even with material, even without transfer
Right.
paper,
Which is nice.
completely front, put it on, okay, squeegee out, perfect, but you have water, you need to dry the water.
Right.
So a lot of steps, you also need to think if it's wet.
Yep. So dry is definitely quicker, but the only price you pay is, especially if you're a beginner or intermediate installer, if you're a shop owner, if you send someone out, you're going to get a lot of bubbles, and that's going to maybe cost some time and maybe lose some quality. So dry is definitely faster. Wet is kind of better in terms of quality, but you're going to pay the price in terms of time, for sure. I generally prefer, if it's a bigger panel and it's just solid frosted, then maybe I go wet, depending. But again, smaller letters, smaller pieces with pre-mask, dry is definitely better. Then in terms of production, then based on that, let's say you choose your material. Let's say for this particular one, we're doing cast, we're doing a solvent-based adhesive right now. We have stripes on the side, stuff like that. I think straightforward dry install is not a problem right now. In terms of measuring, cutting the panels down, do you care if production kind of just randomly just kind of pre-mass it, or do you like to have everything trimmed and straight?
Really trimmed and straight.
Why is that?
Yeah, trim it straight. So even on the sides, I want to trim it straight.
Okay.
So you can put it exactly in the window frame, don't have any
So no
overlays.
bleed, no nothing. You want
Nothing.
everything as exact. So then that
Exact.
also comes to, when you're pricing the job or when you're setting the job up, when you're coming here, you have to get your measurements correct. So that is extremely important. So if you take time to do your precise measurements and then feed that into production, it actually speeds up the install.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And think about production,
Yeah.
which material you use as application tape.
Ah, that's a big one for sure.
So you use paper,
Okay.
okay, or you use the plastic one.
Which one's better?
If you see. Depends. So
Okay.
if you do a wet install, it's good to work with the paper.
100%.
So you can also wet up the paper
Okay.
and then pull it off. If it's hotter or different temperatures,
Sure.
so it's really bad or better to work. We don't say any bad thing about material, we only say good thing of the other one.
Absolutely.
So then we work with the paper one.
Yeah.
Because the paper lays more stable. If you have a little bit temperature different, this is good.
Okay.
But with the transparent one, you see through, you
Which is
can
nice.
really, and you have a more flat surface. So
Right.
I prefer most time go with the air channels and the transparent one.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Okay, so then we have the material trimmed, we got the material right, we have everything ready to go. Now we're at the job site. Reiner, we need some tools. What are the best tools to use? And I say, why don't we get the camera and set up in here and walk you through why these tools are particularly good. And what's cool about frosted film installs is you don't need many tools, but you have to use the right ones. So let's get to those. All right, so these are the tools that we recommend for frosted film installs. I think having a heat source is really good. You can use a propane torch, a little risky right now. I prefer the battery-powered heat gun, a little safer, but you still get that benefit of the heat.
So you don't need so much heat. You don't need a powered heat gun with the cable regular.
Right.
So this one is great because sometimes it's a small spot. Okay, just press a button and you have intermittently heat.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you don't need it, but sometimes you do. You also have to make the graphics level in most cases right now. I like having a level like this. Always just make sure, sometimes I like to put a monkey strip or a monkey tail in here just so it doesn't scratch. But the main thing is making sure that you get a nice good level with different options. Laser levels are okay, but for outside kind of
You don't see it.
Exactly.
You don't see it. That's a bad thing. But level is always good so you can measure.
Yep.
But sometimes the door and everything what you have, it's not in the right angle. So go with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then in terms of cleaning right now, you're obviously working on windows right now, so having a proper squeegee like this is really great. So you're going to spray it, clean it down, and then having these sponges is absolutely critical because glass, sometimes you have those little specks on there. Those are hard to get off by hand.
Yeah, and with the copper one, you don't scratch it.
Yep.
You don't scratch the glass. Also with this one, this gets a little bit, can have some little bit small white things coming out there.
Right.
It's okay. I prefer this one, so you don't scratch the window. You can really clean good.
Yep, and you definitely, I see some people trying to use their knife and stuff like that to clean the glass. Always risky, you might cut the glass. Copper is definitely safer. And then you're not going to use it all the time, but just kind of sop up stuff. You really want to get some good quality microfiber towels. And then up here for now, what you want to do is obviously you want to have masking tape, different types of masking tape. Make sure it holds onto the pre-mask good. Some pre-masks don't hold the masking tape really well. If you have masking tape doesn't work for you, this is actually a nice option. This has come from Yellow Tools, where it has the grip on the back, which is nice. So this is the gecko patch, and then you can use your magnets, which is really cool. How often do you use this, Ryan?
Really often
Yeah.
right now. So when the gecko patches come out, this is such a helper.
Such a helper.
So you can really work fast, because if you even clean the window, some moisture, something is left, so this is not really sticky on the surface. It's always a problem, and with this one you can really work fast.
Absolutely. So this is nice. Obviously you want to have different types of squeegees on hand. So for me, I prefer to have a squeegee that has a buffer on one side. You want to make sure that this is nick-free. And then at the end, you want one with a handle that you can really force out that moisture, which is nice.
And use a harder one.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit soft, but it's good for the stiffness, because you also can use this then for cut on the side.
Yeah.
So this is the space you use on the side, and you run with the blade. And so you also use this to trim the panels on the end.
Absolutely. Squeegee assist cut. Obviously you want to have a tape measure, and then wear gloves to protect yourself. But that being said, what's cool about frosted film installs, don't need hardcore chemicals at all. Mainly what we like to use is water, maybe a couple drops of soap in there, but also maybe just a little bit of alcohol to clean any adhesive off if you need to remove any graphics. But for the most part, don't need much. You
don't need much, and if you need to clean the adhesive, so I have here some blades. So this is a fresh new one blade, and this is a used one I want to show you, because the new one have a paper around, so you don't cut yourself. Use it always in one direction. So put your finger on the print in here on the stamp, then you can even get all glue and things off.
Yep.
But when you use it after using, put some tape around so you don't cut yourself.
Absolutely.
And this works also. The plastic scrapers, they're good, but you can definitely go on the glass with a real blade.
Right. So again, what's great, and the last thing, I guess, sometimes you're going to be cutting the backing paper. So always make sure your blade is super sharp, whether you're using your knife or this, because oftentimes you're going to powder that backing paper and that can get on the adhesive and that's not going to come off. So you really want to make sure that when you do cut the backing paper, be smart, use a fresh blade.
Yeah. Blades, talking about blades. So if you cut on the glass or on the side of the glass, try to use stainless steel blades.
Yep.
So it's still risky to cut in the glass.
Yes.
So you definitely need a sharp new one, break it over with new one. So this is good. But the stainless steel is softer than the regular steel, and the chance to cut in the glass is much lower.
Much less. And the last thing about spray bottles is try to get good quality spray bottles. Like for instance, this one's a double pump. So if you are going to do a wet install, or you want to clean every time you put, it sprays twice, which is great. Or use a pressurized sprayer. I think a lot of people use pressurized sprayer for frosted. For small jobs, maybe don't need them, and especially if you do it dry, not a big deal. But for cleaning, you always want to build that speed. Pressurized or double pump is cool.
Great.
Cool. So again, that's an overview of tools. Now let's get to install tips and tricks. So now we're cleaning and prepping the window, because with the Rapid Suit Rhino, we always do prep, install, post. So now, in terms of prep right now, obviously cleaning. So the graphics that we're putting on right now are right about here. So do we have to clean the glass all the way top to bottom? Not necessarily, but the higher the better, because dirt, obviously gravity comes to get you. So how would you first approach cleaning the glass?
It depends if we do a wet install or a dry install.
Okay, so let's say today we're doing dry.
Okay, if we do a dry install, awesome, because I don't need to go so deep, and I don't need to go so deep on the side.
Right.
So when a wet install, I always need to think about, okay, there could be some dirt under the
rubber.
So you
want to flush that out.
So it goes out. So dry install, easy.
Okay.
So
wet install, flush, otherwise dry, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the right sequential order then? Would you spray, clean, scrape? What's the best process for you?
For me, so I will spray it first completely.
Right.
I go over with here's this.
Okay.
Just copper one, so everything is wet.
Yep.
And then I use this big squeegee to get this.
So spray, scrape, and then take that down. So because you don't do this first, then scrape, then this, because it just adds an extra step.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then do you clean the sides and the frame as well, or how does that work?
Also depends, wet install, dry install.
Right.
I definitely want to go over, because if there's a lot of dust even on the dry install, so it can go in the frame. And always, if we do it, so we want to do a clean work after. So cleaning is not only that our material is sticking, so cleaning also that the customer is happy and have a nice product on here.
Yep.
You cannot just leave it like, okay, everything is dirty around and the sticker looks nice. So then our job is not nice.
Absolutely. So again, make sure you clean the outside of the frame. One thing I see, like let's say on the AV Dentist certification test, people do the fender and they get a lot of dirt on the top of the fender. They don't clean inside the hood or clean those areas. So like for instance, this handle right now scares me quite a bit. So I'm going to make sure that we clean this first, then clean the glass, because if we clean the glass, then this second, maybe that dirt gets back on the window. So you always want to think outside in, and even maybe masking tape. Maybe masking tape. If you have a door handle, you need to go behind and put a masking tape on so you can flip the material around. Yep. And in terms of, so basically for the glass right now, you clean it, do other things, scrape it, wipe it down. Do we need to clean it with alcohol or anything like that, or is soap and water fine?
Soap and water is fine,
Right.
mostly, but I will spray it quickly. But I would put my alcohol on the towel, go over, check everything, and also go on the sides around. So
Okay.
you have it really a tacky surface.
Cool. So now the window's clean, we're ready to go. The sun's creeping in, so time is definitely a factor right now. So Reiner, why don't we grab one of the panels and show them how we'd prep it. So right now, all right, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna install one with masking tape using kind of standard techniques, and then Reiner's gonna show the other side with some cool tools from Yellow Tools. So that being said, the first thing I wanna do, obviously after cleaning, is placement is everything. Who cares if I wrap it fast and I don't have bubbles if it's not in the right spot? So inside, I noticed that the inside graphics need to match the outside. So the outside graphics are the exact same as the inside. So if I look in the office right now, I see that the level's there. I've taken the measurement from the inside, and then I've marked it here with masking tape. So I'm good to go here, so I know exactly how high to place it. So what I'm gonna do now is I always like to get really good, strong masking tape. So don't go cheap masking tape right now. So I'm gonna always try to get several pieces now to make sure it holds position. So once I have that set, I'm gonna place the masking tape there. And then what I can do is I can take this and always double check I'm in the right spot. I try to always be careful because I don't wanna crease the frosted, because once you crease it, it definitely can be difficult to fix. So I place it to here and then carefully swing it through, set it across. And then for me right now, okay, I set the masking tape here. Here I wanna shift it over just a little bit. So I pull the masking tape up. So it's all about being super precise. Right now, what I love is production has really made it easier for me right now because they trimmed the sides so I don't have to worry about cutting there, which is gonna save me a huge step. So now I feel like I'm very good, left to right, which is great. Now, taking a few seconds to take the level, I'm gonna set it to the top, and right here it looks really good, but I wanna bring it up just a kiss, so I feel like I'm down like 1/8 of an inch. So I bring it up just a kiss, double check that it's flat, come here, it looks really good to here, awesome, good to go. So once that's set, I'm gonna come back in, grab the masking tape, and I always personally like to set up a hinge just maybe like 40-60. So I'm kind of closer to the side that I'm gonna start right now. So once I set this now, okay, I wanna make sure that I have a good measurement left to right. So a couple things is now I can take a dry erase marker, mark it to here, or I can actually cut it just on the pre-mask here. So that this came down a little bit. So I'm gonna take it back to here. And again, that's talking about the energy of the pre-mask. Once that's set now, I really wanna make sure that my knife is super sharp. So I come inside here and I grab my safe box, click my blade, snap it to here, and then I can pull the liner. So again, everything's gonna line up to there. I pull this low and flat. I personally like to pull the material low and flat off the liner like this. Actually, one of the B's came up, so make sure that that goes back on the pre-mask. So you always want to pay attention to that. And then right here, this is a big one because I'm working solo, is I fold a little tab, I dog ear it there so it holds, and watch what I do now. I'm actually going to do a slight half circle right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the material through, and then I'm going to pinch it really firm so it lays nice and flat. Even though I cut it with a sharp blade right now, I do see a little paper on the window. So you always want to pay attention to that because I know it's going to happen. So then I just take 2 seconds to do that. So we're good. Now, very important right now to, in this case, for me personally, I like to use the buffer side of the squeegee first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it away, make sure it's even. You see that wind pick up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of fold it back just a little bit to here so it doesn't fall down. I lock it in the middle, I squeegee up, and I squeegee down. While it's here, I'll continue to squeegee up and down. And when you squeegee, you want to make sure you squeegee with a firm 45-degree squeegee mark. I double check the alignment's good here, so that looks great. By doing that now, I can pick it back up and snap it, hold it lightly away, and then squeegee up, down, up, down, up, down. So firm overlapping squeegee strokes from side to side. Then once I get it to here, I can squeegee nice and firm here, 45 degrees all the way into the side. Once that's set now, okay, what I'd like to do personally is I like to then squeegee with the hard side of my squeegee to get everything down nice and tight. Once everything's down here, then I can start on this side. So here, set my masking tape on this side, and I'm actually gonna put the masking tape on the pre-mask right there. Now here, remove this masking tape, pull it to the side, set it on. And now personally, what I like to do is I like to roll it back a little bit. just because, again, I don't want to crease it, and I want to create that nice even tension. So once I do that, now, as you can see that little tab that I had at the beginning, I can pull the tab to here, and I can hold the material and the roll at the same time, hold it evenly on the surface, and then squeegee up and down. So again, firm overlapping squeegee strokes. Once I get pretty close to the backing paper, I'm going to reach through here, pick it off the surface, hold it lightly away, and squeegee up and down. So it's all about making sure it doesn't touch too soon. Squeegee up, overlap my strokes. I see some air underneath the pre-mask right now. That's not underneath the film. And then here I'll just finish this off because I know it's kind of hard to see on camera. So the idea right now is just to hold the material lightly away, squeegee up and down, work all the way to the side, and to here, and good. Once that's set, again, coming back in with my squeegee, making sure everything's down, great. So what I do now is I take a few seconds now, because I'm not in any hurry to take off the pre-mask. Because I'm working by myself, I had to take off the liner. So right now my workspace is a little dirty. So what I'm gonna do is take a few seconds now to pick it up. My workspace looks super professional, and I want my ground to be super professional as well. So I'm gonna roll up the masking tape and the backing paper all in one, and then I set it on my cart in this case, so now nothing's gonna go off flying in the wind. I'm good to go. So in this case, I wanna remove the pre-mask right now, and I wanna think smart. So in this case, I got a wall to my left, and I got an open space to my right. So I'm actually gonna pull the pre-mask left to right because I don't wanna pull into the wall. So once I have that set now, and I'll talk more about how to pull pre-mask in a second, I'm gonna pull low and flat, and the idea is you want the angle of the pre-mask to be around 45 degrees. And this is the benefit of doing this install dry, is that I can pull the pre-mask right away. But right now, see how it's hanging down here? I'm not crazy about it. So what I like to do is fold the pre-mask close, so I'm not picking up any dirt, it's not getting on my clothes. Pull a little bit, hold it back, and you can see that 45-degree angle. Then I pull from here, top to bottom. Nice, clean, and even, and done. So again, what I like about production right now is the production set everything up to here. I don't have to cut, don't have to cut the sides. So again, thank you to production for doing that. And now the final thing is now, okay, is I'm gonna go back over the frosted with my squeegee, but notice how I'm squeegeeing right now. I'm going with the lines. So here I'm going with the line as opposed to down, because I might catch an edge. So you always want to go with your graphic. So same thing here on this bottom stripe here, double checking this edge is down, double checking it to here, and then once I'm going to here, I'm just going to be carefully going over this area here, good to go. In this case now I want to look for bubbles. I don't see any bubbles. And one thing you have to think about now, let's talk about finishing, is because I squeegeed dry, sometimes you might see some strokes from your squeegee, and that's normal, okay? So this adhesive will eventually wet out. So that is the only negative about doing stuff dry other than bubbles. But the fact is you might see those squeegee strokes, but just know, it's kind of like when you get a wet look on window perf, that will go away. So you can see dry, very easy and straightforward. With the masking tape, create that hinge, but again, first and foremost, make sure it's level in the right spot, and then you're good to go. So with that, we're gonna get Reiner going on this one using those yellow tools. Let's check that out.
Perfect.
All right, Reiner, so the other side I did dry install with masking tape, and we're shaking things up a little bit. This is maybe in some ways more precise and faster?
More precise, it's easier for me.
Yeah.
So if you stick the masking tape, it falls off on and off. So with this one, we just measure from the bottom up.
Okay.
I still want to check then with a regular level on the end, that it's really straight. So I make my 0 point on 10.
Yep.
And my material is directly straight cutted here. So I can go in the corner and say, okay, put my magnet here and go down and put my magnet on the other side down. So that's it, so pretty straightforward. I check the level.
So always double check. So basically, obviously this is the exact same height as the other side. So things are gonna be straightforward. And you know, on the install, if those of you who watched me do the dry install with masking tape, you know, I had this kind of set up too, and then on the, you know, I had the hinge in the middle luckily, but then the masking tape kind of dropped off the top on the left side, so it came down, which I saved it. But the thing is, you know, what if the, you know, frosted film creased, maybe damaged. So in this way, I do like this because there's no chance of this flipping over.
Yeah, and we can also secure this really. I want to flip this now over here, right. Just squeegee this on, and then I go the whole side here. Okay. So I don't make a hinge in the middle right now, so I just go from the left to the right side.
What's the logic for that?
So then I can leave my magnets on the side, and I also can go around under and always check the measurement. Otherwise I need to go also here, put a small measurement tape, small tape here on the side.
Right.
Cut it on the top so I can flip it over, say, okay, this would be my measurement that I go also straight on the end.
Right.
So I use my top point here, the 0 point here, that I go straight in this direction.
Okay, so it's like an extra set of hands right now holding on.
Yeah. Okay, when you flip it over, I really want to squeegee also this.
Absolutely.
Okay, otherwise you're too far away from the window, and when you're too far away from the window, so on the end, it's not straight, so you're creating problems by the first squeegee strokes.
Got it. So now once you add that hinge, so you're setting your permanent hinge, in this case, all the way to the left, and that's because you have this setup with the tools from yellow tools, definitely doing it dry. Obviously you want to remove that before you squeegee, correct?
Well, not that.
So again, putting this in, never let those things touch the ground, because if they touch the ground, it can be a little tricky. So right now you pull the backing paper off, not all the way, but most of the way, then you line it up here. Now
I can hold it, so this is my extra hand here.
Nice.
It's easy.
Yeah, very
So
cool.
I can make a break while we're doing it now.
You can't make a break now right now, because what's interesting is, obviously we're filming and doing stuff, but right here I can see a little bit of the sun creeping in. So time is definitely becoming a factor right now, because in about maybe 20 minutes, this is going to get full sunlight. So here, that yo-yo moment right now. So again, keeping the material off the surface, squeegeeing up and down. And Reiner, you're using the hard side of your squeegee right now. Would you use the buffer side as well?
Right now I only use the sharp hard side,
Right.
because I want to get good pressure on.
Yeah.
You also can use a buffer side, because sometimes when you do a dry installation like this, you have small bubbles left. It's not a problem,
Right.
but more with the buffer you create it. When I do this right now with a hard squeegee, I have maybe some lines in also.
Yeah. So that's
So when I later lift the application tape, you will see it, but that's not a problem at all. If you have small bubbles in, so they will disappear to the material, and also the small lines will disappear.
Yeah. So again, Reiner and I are showing different styles where I showed, squeegeeing with the buffer side on, where I have maybe less lines, but maybe you have some air underneath. Depends, I prefer to use, let's say, a monkey strip, which is super thin, where it keeps the hardness of the squeegee kind of intact. But Reiner, again, likes to use the hard side of the squeegee, so neither one is bad, it's just a different preference. But the main thing is just knowing, as I mentioned earlier when I did mine, is that wet look, or those adhesive lines, will go away, or those, that you can see from the squeegee strokes. It's just making sure that you just educate your client and say that, in 1 or 2 days that'll flatten out and be good. So
Good thing also if you have a buffer on it. So right now my squeegee stops here.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a buffer on it, you can really go up and down on the sides.
That's what I prefer, Reiner, because I'm lazy. So if I go too far, I always like the safety of a buffer, because I never, ever, ever like to scratch anything. So for me, I always do buffer first, hard side, once I kind of take all the liner off. But either way, right now you're saying perfectly straight, and I love this setup from Yellow Tools with those rulers and the magnets right now. Really makes the install super easy. Right now you're getting pretty close to those, so now you're going to take off the whole liner, Reiner, or what's the logic?
I take off the whole liner, work this out, and also take off this.
Right.
So.
And is there any chance of residue getting on the window from those, or?
No, this is really like a gecko, as they call it, gecko patch.
Right.
So this only because you have this rubber, and the rubber is so flat.
Yep.
So this sticks on the surface on the window, because it's only flat.
Right, and we're maybe ½ inch. Why is that?
Because then you have especially I say you make it like a printer.
Yep.
So a printer also don't print in one thing and another thing, so we have passes.
Yep.
So the printer would say, okay, this is maybe a 4 pass or 6 pass.
Right.
So you go over the same often, so you don't move or push the material too much in one direction. If I would directly go on with the squeegee on the full side, so I will push and move the material to one side. So, and also we create more pressure on the glue.
So it slices down. And keep in mind that more and more people right now are using frosted film that has an air egress feature to it, which I like a lot. So you can actually squeegee with a wider stroke of your squeegee if you're using air egress. But in this case, we're not using air egress. So no air egress, shorter squeegee strokes with air egress, kind of more normal squeegee strokes.
Yeah.
So and right now, I guess,
directly on the corner.
Yep.
So I want to be more shorter. So
okay.
this, it should be, let's say, millimeter something away from the rubber.
Yep.
I don't want to be on the rubber.
Okay.
That is to cut it a little bit. On this side,
Yep.
I'm a little bit longer. So what I do right now, I use my squeegee
Yep.
and
Very
my
important.
knife.
Okay.
So
let's emphasize that blade though. It's a 58-degree stainless steel blade. You're going to click it so it's extra sharp. And so this is stainless steel, 58 degree. And I see a lot of people use 30-degree stainless steel. 30 degrees is still risky, right?
it's still risky. And here I can put it on the flat side. I need to check with my handle. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit tricky. Go under this door handle around. But now I use it as for my distance to cut the material away.
And that's what we at the Wrap Institute, we call that a squeegee assist cut. And what's nice about that squeegee assist cut is you get that nice gap. The squeegee stays in there so it's nice and straight. And the biggest thing obviously is you're not cutting the rubber so it stays nice and uniform, even with a giant handle sticking in your face.
Yeah, and you need to think about even the glass is moving with the temperature, so it
Yep.
gets bigger and smaller. So if it gets in the summertime, so also the glass is moving. And if you're too close to the side, this will definitely push the rubber to the film and maybe lift the film.
Yep.
So here, start now from the middle, because I cannot grab it here on the side, and I cut it directly.
Right.
So I use my open space here, and then we go around.
Yeah, and just to emphasize right here, just so you, maybe you didn't see, I didn't catch it on camera. So right now, Reiner started pulling the pre-mask here and not here or at the line, because if you pull the line, obviously you might pick up the frosted. So start at a dead area and then open up from there.
So just
And again, it's going low and flat. Again, this
Low
is the
and
benefit of dry install. So dry install is a little slower in terms of squeegeeing. Wet install is in some ways more forgiving, but again, if you have air egress, frosted film, can't do it. And once you get these techniques, again, 80–90% of the time you do dry. Dry is definitely safer.
and this material has no air regress right now.
No.
So, but you see, it still works. So it's not bad even to work with the material.
Yeah.
There's no air regress and install it dry.
Nice.
And there are no right now. Here's a small bubble I can pop.
Yeah.
And here's a little bit on the end, it's a little bit, but also this will activate it. So I don't care even about the small things here, small things here.
Sure.
So this will go through. But this bubble here on the end, or this bubble here, I will poke.
Okay.
And it's really good.
You want to do that with the air release tool, get that set. So again, nice overview of this stuff right here. So again, now, Reiner, I guess we could do a thing and I'll just hold the camera. You know, what was your finishing tips in terms of the install right now? Obviously clean up the workspace. Do you have to clean the window, or what's the concern right now if you come back in with the cleaner?
So I will clean the window, and even you touch the window by installing. So you want to leave it a nice clean window after.
Yeah.
So, but be sure. So I want to use only microfiber towels and don't go over these edges directly. So check the edges here around. If you pull the material away, maybe the edge is lifting a little bit. So check it, go over with the squeegee, with the buffer in the other direction. Okay, this lays on. And I only use a microfiber towel. If you use a paper towel and they go over like this, so then I definitely have small spots.
So the biggest thing is, again, don't spray on the glass. Very good point from Reiner, is don't spray on the glass because that moisture might get underneath the edge right now, even by doing it dry. So just spray on the towel. And again, Reiner, you're not pressing super hard. You're just kind of buffing the window.
Yeah, I just wanna clean it for my client,
Yep.
that it looks nice on the end.
Yeah, cool. And obviously the protocol is take pictures and do your thing. And then with that right now, we'll stop the camera for a second and we'll do a final conclusion. So let's get to that.
Did you?
All right, Reiner, that is a wrap, my man. So for me, I thought it was very straightforward. I learned actually quite a bit, and I hope you guys did too. Any final thoughts then, how you finish the job correctly to make extra money?
I mean, money you make with this thing with square meters,
Yep.
what is really good. So this is actually a really good money maker
Absolutely.
for you. And take care of your client. So show the client what you have done. So show how nice it is. That also some next jobs jumping in to you. So make the right measurements again, check all the measurements, check if anything maybe turns a little bit wrong or you have a little bit off, a little bit too much material. So next time you write this down and see for the next production it works
Absolutely.
better.
You know, like in this case for now, everything was good. The left side fit perfect left to right. In this case, this was like maybe a 1/4 inch or maybe a 1 centimeter too big. So now it's the job of the installer to go back to production department and say, hey, tweak the measurement. But again, also for this one, I think if you're an installer on the job, just make the measurements and document them. So when you go back to the shop, let's say this job has to be redone or in the future, or if they have another job, You know the measurements, so again, streamline it. Information is power, information is speed. So if you get all that stuff, again, finishing strong is really good. But we don't have to post-heat. You wipe everything down, make it nice pretty. Client gives a thumbs up, and you're off, which is great. So for me, again, frosted film installs, they might seem simple, and in many ways they are if you get it right. And I hopefully all these tips and tricks that Reiner and I gave you are, really help you. And I love this style of video, Reiner. For me, kind of mix the real world experience in with this and different styles. Again, freeforming is really cool.
Really cool, really cool. Hope you learn a lot.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Ciao.